Okay, so you can tell that there was already a girl here, and this was a page that I did it'd have to be almost a year ago, and I didn't like the girl that I'd drawn and painted, and I had abandoned the page thinking that I would do something different later on. And now I just decided that I would paint over the whole thing and then go with the girl. And so I'm just drawing that girl in at the moment, and she's done. And I'm now going to start colouring her in. There is a layer of gesso over what was there before. So now I'm just going in and using some neo colours as the base layer. Now these, I'm going to do it with gel medium, I think. Hang on, let me see how I did this, because I did this page over a couple of weeks. Just kept going back to it. No, water brush. So I used a water brush and just blended it in. And of course it looks more splotchy when you do it over gesso like that. And I definitely did it like that, and so I was just playing around with it. Here we go. And I'm going to play and play and play. So you can see her face is a little bit splotchy here, so I'm just going over after it was dry with my Flesh glaze, and I use this often just to tone things down and mute everything. And then now I'm using an ink, so I'm using an artist grade acrylic ink, and it's in deep violet. And I just wanted to see how it dried and the tonings of it over the gesso was. And sometimes I find that this can be extremely watery, it's a darker colour. So definitely I'm kind of liking the streaky nature of it. I can go over it and over it and over it again and again and again. And what I found with this particular thing was that the pages were a bit waxy from the first going over. And particularly that left page is still quite shiny and waxy, and later on you'll find that almost nothing will adhere or write over it. So the skin wasn't fully dried. I tried to use a pastel over it. It started to gouge out what was there, so I gave up with that. Thought I'll do some stamping with one of my handmade flower stamps. So now I decided that I was going to use a biro. So sometimes you can use different things for the black. I wanted a really fine line, and I wanted it to write over all the product that I'd used to make up her skin, and I just didn't want to have to worry about it, so I used a biro, and I thought that was quite interesting. It worked really, really well. It doesn't move when you use water medium. Now I'm just adding in a final layer of gouache for the final shading, and it just blends really quite nicely with the rest of it and gives that nice kind of depth. I'm doing the eyes. I'm using a light blue and a dark blue to ring, and a 70% grey Prisma to just shadow in the eyes, and I'm ringing them in. So I'm using this fuchsia, and it's just a Crayola washable marker, and I'm doing the same with her shirt with Crayola washable markers as well. And I've got the dark violet and the lilac, and I'm just blending them, and I'm surprised at when they dried how nice they look together. So now I'm just using the same inks that I used on the background, but I'm using them on the background of her hair just to see what they look like. I wasn't really impressed with this orange, to be honest. I think that it could have been stronger, so I've gone in with the fuchsia, and you can see how the mottily uneven surface of the paper that I'm working on makes the hair look like it's got almost a leopard print. Now I thought that was really, really interesting myself, and I dried it all off, and then all I wanted to do after I dried it all off was to actually just even it out a little bit, because I didn't want it to look overtly look at it at the moment, it looks like her hair's on fire or something like that, and I'm like, oh goodness. So I'm just, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm just adding in some highlights. And doing that here and there on her face, putting her lashes in, finalising the sketches, just the outlining, do some black lines through her hair. Because even though it's shiny, that ink is now dry. Funny that. So I liked the black ink through the hair, and now I'm just using a magenta and a orange yellowish or yellowish orange neo colours, and just to give that sort of pink orange look, and I'm just activating them now with matte medium. No more water, didn't want too much streak in, so that's toned down that, but it gives some really still some interesting texture in her hair, and I think she's a bit gorgeous myself, love her. So I actually tried to do writing on the left hand page and nothing stuck, so I ended up having to paint in paint because nothing really stuck to the page. It was really quite waxy, and I thought, oh no. So that's why my writing is a little bit funny, because I wrote it in a China pencil and then I actually had to paint it in with a paintbrush, and I left it at that after that. I may go over it again, but for all intents and purposes, the page looks a hell of a lot better than it did 12 months ago. Ciao for now. See you next time.